figuring out who's speaking what language when, and then how do you present that when you're writing in English?
The question of how to handle language in the book is something I'm still grappling with. Obviously, you had native speakers from all over Europe speaking a number of different languages all gathered together in Vienna. French was sort of the common language of diplomacy at this time, and the Russian court actually spoke French often. So a lot of the time the characters would have been speaking French, but basically every time I start a scene I have to figure out what language the characters would be speaking. And then do I convey that, do you convey that by simply saying the prince greeted Gideon in French, and then you've indicated that that's the language they're speaking, and then if you do that, do you replace Mr. with Monsieur, and then do you replace Mr. with Herr if they're speaking German, or do you just use English all the time? The same thing, do you use Count and Countess all the time, or do you use Comtesse if you're speaking in French? I haven't quite decided how I'm going to handle that at this point. I'm still sort of grappling with it. It's also a problem. I have situations where something's overheard, some bit of plotting is overheard, and I want it to be not at all clear who's doing the plotting and from which country. And therefore, if they're speaking in their native language, it's kind of a giveaway about which country it is. So do you have them speaking in French, which was sort of a common language, and then do you have the accent be good enough that you can't, even if you can tell it isn't a native French speaker, you're not sure what country they're from, which I think is believable because most people learn French from childhood, so they would speak French quite well. Anyway, the language is definitely a challenge, and it's definitely a challenge with which I am still grappling.